Peace and blessings, family. This is Brother Mike X. Welcome to another clip from my YouTube channel, Brother Mike X Speaks. Tonight, I want to talk to you about truth. I want to talk to you about the seeking of truth being the key to unity and freedom in our communities, the black and brown communities or neighborhoods, more aptly put, across, the country, wherever city or state that you go to in the urban areas, where we live amongst each other in significant numbers. You have the same conditions a lot of times. You have missing in action politicians. You have the business establishments in the communities, 99.9% of them owned and controlled by outsiders. You have schools that miseducate, that do not teach us or help us to understand who we have been and who we are, and who we need to be, and you have a high degree, of apathy, ignorance, mediocrity. You have a high degree of people who are just existing, and have not found a way to bring meaning and purpose, not only to their lives, but through bringing meaning and purpose to their lives as individuals amongst the collective, having gained the ability to spark, a momentum of uplift in these communities. There are various reasons for that, racism historically, the fact that we were brought to this country, to be perpetual slaves, the disintegration or destruction of the bond between our males and our females. And because of that, us not being able to provide, the necessary strong foundation that comes from, that bond of male and female to the children, and because we haven't had that bond, we haven't been able to provide, the type of structure within our neighborhoods that will offer safety, opportunity, and growth, to our people, particularly our young. So there's been a lot of efforts to knock us down, and there is legitimate blame to put upon the historical forces that have sought to keep us from being able to rise into a position of independence and autonomy, to be able to do for ourselves what other communities do for themselves, as far as being able to provide the type of structure and foundation, to their people and their neighborhoods, that offer their people safety, opportunity, and growth within their structure. This is something that has been denied, us as a people, And so, like I said, there's a lot of blame, to be, that needs to be reckoned with for those forces that did that. But this is not about blame, and being able to blame someone doesn't help us to improve our situation and our condition as a people. So this is not about blame. I don't want to talk to you about blame. I just wanted to get that out the way. I want to talk to you about responsibility, because the blame is theirs. The responsibility to rise up out of the conditions that we have been knocked down to, the responsibility is ours. The blame is theirs. The responsibility is ours. We cannot sit back and continue to wait for the forces, the modern day forces that represent the historical forces that did everything that they could to knock us down and keep us down. We cannot expect them to take the responsibility to pick us back up. It goes against the interests of those who want to keep and maintain a status quo, you know, of, you know, white superiority, power, wealth, you know what I mean? And to keep black people, people of color, in a position where we are divided, conquered, you know what I mean? Living in chaotic conditions, you know, where without the knowledge and understanding of what happened to us, and without that knowledge and understanding of what happened to us, being locked into positions of mediocrity, self-hatred, doubt, fear, and other things of that nature. You know, one of the biggest problems in our community, you know, is division, you know, and, you know, and in that division, you know, there represents what I've begun to call, you know, a phenomena of generational discontinuity. You know, we have huge generational gaps in our communities. You know, we don't have the luxury and the continuity from our elders, you know, where there has been a line of communication and connection and bonding and support going down the line of generations. So a lot of times what you have in our communities, in the black communities, in these urban areas, you have the people who go out and they go into the meetings, they go into the community board meetings, they go into the tenant association meetings, they go into, you know, the meetings of the so-called historical black organizations, National Council of Negro Women, National NAACP, and other bodies, you know, where people discuss and decide what kind of policies and things of that nature, what type of measures, you know, are going to be put into effect to try to maintain the community. A lot of these bodies, you know, they're dominated by older people, you know, elders, people in their, you know, 60s, 70s, you know, 80s. And then when you start to go down the line of generation, you know, of generations, you know, huge gaps begin to make their presence felt. You know, nobody representing the age group of the 50s, you know what I mean, from the beginning of, you know, early 50s to late 50s. Nobody being there to represent the generational understanding and continuity from their early 40s to their late 40s. No one, a lot of times, standing up. And I'm talking about on that grassroots level. I'm talking about on that working class, you know what I mean, grassroots level. Nobody there to represent, you know, with experience and connection to those above them, you know, from their mid 30s or their early 30s, pardon me, to their late 30s. Nobody in their 20s, nobody in their teens, you know what I mean? And then you'll see, you know, maybe some children, you know, a lot of times in these meetings, you know, young children who most likely have been brought there by their grandparents who are watching them for their children. So you have huge generational gaps, you know, and people who have been brought up in a structure where they understand that they have to be present and they have to be representative of being, you know, held accountable and being responsible for being in tune with themselves and with other people in the neighborhood, you know, particularly those who are older, you know, the ones who have the type of understanding going back of what it takes to run a community. You know, we've made, you know, I've encountered, you know, in my efforts to be an activist in my, you know, community. This is what I've encountered, you know, as I was awakened, you know, because I wasn't brought up in this type of environment. I was awakened, you know, through the ages of hip hop in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, when hip hop represented, you know, it was a it was consciousness, it was culture that was being pushed through people like Rakim, through people like KRS-One and the Brand Nubians and others. They helped to awaken me at that time and many others from a sleep, you know what I mean, that we was under because we didn't enjoy the type of generational continuity and representation where we was brought up by the people in the communities, the elders, to be able to know who we are, to be able to have a healthy knowledge of self and culture and belief in who we have been in the past and who we need to be in the present so that we can foster a better situation in our communities. You know what I mean? So I was awakened through hip hop, you know, and that made me want to go out and introduced me to people who were responsible in the past for striving to give that type of identity. People like Malcolm X, people like Huey Newton, you know, Marcus Garvey, you know, Sojourner Truth, Fannie Lou Hamer, you know, A. Philip Randolph, you know, and a whole bunch, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King, the real Dr. Martin Luther King, not that watered down, I Have a Dream speech, Dr. King. It made me want to rise up and become part of a much needed leadership in my neighborhood, you know. And as I began to get into the active practice of learning and seeking truth, you know, and seeking and knowing my history and availing myself of the great people who came before me and others, you know, who were black, you know, who were handling their responsibility, it made me want to do the same thing. You know, the thing that's most necessary, you know, and I'm realizing that I'm probably, you know, going to have to deal with this subject matter and, you know, and not just one clip, but 2 or 3 maybe, you know, we need individuals who are going to take it upon themselves, you know, not to be just part of a clique, you know, not just to be dependent upon the status quo and the crumbs that they send down the line, you know, where they'll take one individual from the neighborhood and they'll set him or her up with a program. And the program, you know, it won't be a program most of the time that's going to strive to spark new life in the neighborhood. It'll be something where they'll allow you to play some pool or, you know, a basketball program or some things. And not to say that we shouldn't offer recreation to our young people, but why they try to program our people to death? You know, when it comes to their neighborhoods, they offer them real empowerment. They help to teach them how to learn trades and learn skills, you know, and to get into entrepreneurialism and to learn how to take over, you know, the business, you know, the businesses that they maintain, you know, so that they will be able to employ themselves and be strong. But when it comes to our neighborhood, nobody's talking about helping us to learn any skills, you know, to learn how to be able to be good with our hands and, you know, skilled labor, you know, electricians, you know what I mean, automotive, you know, computer technicians and, you know, architecture and all of these things. They're not talking about teaching us no skills. It's always, oh, let us set up a program, you know, so to give them something to do, put a basketball in their hand, put a pool stick in their hand. You know what I mean? But as far as us being able to empower ourselves, they leave us in a position where a lot of us think that the only thing that we can do is either go to the streets to hustle, you know what I mean, rob, steal, or, you know, put a microphone in my hand, you know, and sing and dance, you know what I mean, and rap. You know, family, just stick with me, you know what I mean, because I'm going to be honest with you right now. When it comes to this YouTube thing, they give you like 15 minutes. You know what I mean? I guess I could pay for more time, but I'm not in that position right now. So I'm using it how I can use it. So I'm coming up on 15 minutes and I'm going to continue to expand on this topic. So just stick with me and let's keep on pushing. Let's open up our minds, unify, seek truth, and become empowered. Talk to you soon.